let's talk about finding yourself in the chaos. A lot of the times, in the eye of the storm, it's so hard to find your true self, and to get going. And the eye of the storm sometimes paralyzes us. Not today. We're going to talk about how to find yourself in the chaos, and it's not about the knockdown, it's about the get up.
Let's go.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
All right. So now with that intro, we are going to dive right into it. Jen, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And Ryan is sick today. It was actually, let's start here. To everyone that was looking for the show yesterday, I'm truly sorry. There was miscommunication amongst the three of us. There was messages going on one side, and then there was messages going on the other side, and nobody really got the messages until it was too late. I ended up having night terrors all night. Ryan was sick as a dog, and Jeff was going, "Guys, what's going on? I can't get a hold of any of you." So it was pretty interesting. We figured it all out. Now we're back on the air. I actually had some people say, "I think you forgot to push live," because we've done that before a couple of times, Jeff. So it was interesting. But Ryan is still off ill today. So Jen is with us, and Ryan said, "You know what, guys, just start by saying, Jen, share your story." And he goes, and y'all are going to be blown away. So I'm going to honor Ryan's wishes. Jen, share your story.
Oh, I feel so put on the spot. So good morning. And thank you.
That was a pretty big put on the spot.
Just a little bit. Usually I get that intro like, hey, start off here. But so story-wise, so I am a serial entrepreneur. I have 4 businesses currently. And it started, from my parents. My dad was an entrepreneur. He had his ups and downs as a business owner, and it was through his trial and errors of being a business owner that I really wanted to be a business owner. I come from a really tough background, where we grew up. It wasn't the best of circumstances, single dad, really tough, living in poverty, moving from house to house. So for us, it was really, really tough, like my childhood. And, I had some opportunities, and thankfully, through those opportunities, I was able to continue to grow as a person, but it wasn't easy. So my childhood was very difficult. And as I kind of started to grow up, I could have done 2 things. I could have turned into the other parent that I had, who is a drug addict and, very abusive, or I could choose to be a stronger, better person. And so that person was a circumstance, right? So I had these opportunities as I started getting a little bit older, and I had to decide what it was I was going to do. And as I started, growing and educating myself, I wanted to prove to everybody that no matter where you come from or, what was your background, you could pretty much do anything you want to do. And so I put myself through college. I actually didn't graduate till I was 30. My degree has nothing to do with what I do right now, which is pretty ironic. The year that I graduated from college, I was diagnosed with a heart condition. I also gave birth to my first daughter. So my whole world kind of flipped upside down when I thought I was actually getting my shit together. So it was like, through all of these crazy things that were kind of happening, I started working, and, from there I knew that like life wasn't fulfilling, and I loved my job. I loved my family, but I just felt like, going to work, it wasn't what I wanted to do. And so I wanted to start a business. And, the first day that I started going to a business accelerator program, I'll flip it around just a little bit. I wanted to be a business owner, and I didn't know how to be a business owner. So I decided to start an inspirational apparel company, right? So why not? Out of anything, I was like, well, I like to be inspirational. I like to inspire other people. I'm going to start a t-shirt company. I had no idea what I was doing. And I owned other small, like little side gig hustle, Etsy things, but never a true business. So I put myself through a business accelerator program. On the first day driving to the business accelerator program, I had my first heart attack. So at the ripe age of 36, I had a heart attack driving to the business accelerator program. And it was kind of in that moment that I knew that my life was going to change. And through that, I put myself through this program. I started off with $500. I used that business as a seed business, and I started my other businesses. I started a babysitting and nannying agency. Through that, I started a house cleaning company and now a consulting company, and I have 2 more starting in 2023. So that's the short of the very long story.
Wow. Just wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of chaos around a lot of great stuff. Now I also understand you ran the Boston Marathon.
I did. So I ran the Boston Marathon in 2011, and I was diagnosed with my heart condition in 2012 when I had my daughter. So, and I was told by the cardiologist that I was probably never going to run a marathon again. I was told that, I have a super high heart rate, very low blood pressure. So when I run, I actually get super lightheaded and obviously heart attack problems. So it was a real big setback for me. So I kind of went through this very short period of what I guess would call depression. It was very brief because
Mm.
I told myself I had two options, right? I can either sit back and sulk or I can go and do something else. And I chose to, do something else. I chose to get my body back into shape. I chose to do things like nice and slowly. I started running Spartan races because I knew that I could start and stop. And it also allowed me to do things with my body that weren't necessarily running. I've completed so many of them. I've done Spartan trifectors, like you're in the East Coast, Jeff. So are you familiar with like Killington?
Oh yeah.
So I did a Spartan Beast in on Killington. It's between 14 and 16 miles up and down the mountain, which is one of the hardest Spartans in North America.
Oh
And
yeah.
7.5 hours. And I did that in 2018, right before I had my heart attack. And when I did that, I kind of told myself, if I can do that, I can do anything. So I'm actually running the 2023 Boston Marathon 16 days after I turned 40 this year. So I'm very
Nice.
excited.
Nice,
You must have
nice,
ran
good
a
for you.
Spartan up there in Killington with my cousins, because two of them went and did that as well over the past 5 years.
Oh, that's so funny.
I have to ask you, because it just stood out. You said you had your first heart attack. Did you have more heart attacks after that?
So thankfully I haven't had another one yet, but because of the heart condition
Good.
I have, I'm actually predisposed to having multiple heart attacks. And
Wow.
I've had what presented as a heart attack. I actually just, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago got rushed out of the house in an ambulance because I thought I was having another heart attack, and thankfully it was just an arrhythmia. But yeah, it was really scary.
That's incredible,
Wow.
because with
Hmm.
that health issue and running all of those business, just the stress alone's got to be incredible. I mean,
Absolutely.
either you're completely focused or nuts, but I mean,
Both.
it's awesome. It really is. It just goes to show you what a positive mindset can do for an individual
Yeah.
that's struggling in so many other areas, that they're not going to allow those little things, I call them little, to stop you from your goals and objectives. So good for you, man. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
But I don't think we pay enough attention to what people are going through.
True.
Right, like everybody has challenges and situations they're going through, and just drive down the highway and kind of just look at people in the morning, and every one of them is going through something. And to hear stories like yours, Jen, um, and to help people share their stories, because your story is going to inspire somebody that's down in the dumps right now, that is just saying,
I
I
hope
can't
so.
do it, there's nothing I can do. Well, and that's, I think, a big thing for us as humans, is as we push forward through struggles, through the chaos, through the eye of the storm, I think it's our job, it's mandatory for us to share it. And this is the medium, right? This is the beauty of where we are right now, to be able to share it, because it's as simple as turning on a camera, putting it on YouTube, and somebody will see it.
Absolutely.
Somebody will see it. And it's, I think it's almost mandatory for us
Yes.
to do that. So when you were, we got some great comments. Damon says, I could totally relate to struggles growing up in life in general. Jenny says, we need to be nuts somehow to survive in this crazy world. Jokes apart, more power to you, Jen. Never
Yeah,
give up.
absolutely.
What
Absolutely.
was there a turning point for you during all of this? Because you seem to have gone through a lot of struggle in a very short period of time.
Yeah, so I think, I'll blame a lot of it on my upbringing, right? So like I said, right from the get-go, a child of abuse. And I think right as early on, I had struggles, and I I had this mentality that I couldn't give up as a child. And so as I got older, and I get a little bit emotional talking about it, right? It wasn't until this past year I started actually talking about my childhood. I'd always start my story at like when I had a heart attack, and my husband used to always say, I don't understand why you don't talk about your childhood. And I'm like, well, nobody wants to hear about that, right? And you just said we're obligated to tell this story. And it took like this overwhelming power inside of me to be able to say, you know what, I need to let go of the past in order to continue to grow. And there's probably all of these people in between that have gone through what I went through and want to go where I want to go. And if I can show them that I was there and I can be here, you can do it too. And so I would have to say, like, it was about a year ago that I kind of came to this like realization that my story needed to be heard, and I needed to talk more about where I came from and how to get here, and not to be a product of your environment, because it would have been so easy for me to fall into that. Like I have parents, one parent who, obviously struggles with life and has like mental disorders and drug disorders. And it would have been so simple for me to fall into that situation. And then I didn't. And I have children of my own.
And have a really good excuse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A complete excuse, right? Like if I turned out like my mom, everyone would be like, all right, it was meant to happen. But, showing people that I can do something else and I can be the best possible version of myself. Me and my siblings have, been through hell and back, and we've done all of these amazing things. And then I have 3 children. I have 3 kids that I want to show that, like, no matter what, at the end of the day, like, I'm going to get up and I'm going to keep doing things. The hard part for me is that, they know that me going in an ambulance is normal to them, but they also know that, like, the day I come home, I go back to doing what I was doing. So I don't really sit around and sulk. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, but like I want to just keep inspiring people that no matter what happens. I woke up this morning, like I'm like, thank God I'm awake. That's the first thing I do every day. I'm like, I woke up, I'm here, I have an opportunity. I can choose to do nothing, or I can choose to be the best possible version of myself, tell my story, help other people. And I'd rather do that. Exactly.
You have 2 choices.
Oh, I got my monitor here, my camera here, so I was looking at my camera, and at the corner of my eye, I saw there's just 2 choices going. Yes, sir.
That's
every given moment we have 2 choices to make. And we had our friend Rico Rakoski on, and he does this, Jen. He says it's either getting you closer to or further away from your goal. Your 2 choices.
Absolutely.
All day long, all I do is this, and I just look at it. And I go, okay, if I want to do this, and if it's like I'm lacking energy or this or that, and it's like, and I just go, okay, yeah, let's go, let's do it, right? So, are there specific gurus you follow? Are there specific people, books you read? How do you help your mindset stay so strong?
Oh, that's really important, right? So I definitely work out a lot, so that helps. I listen to a podcast every single day. So every single day I try to listen to, no matter what, 45 minutes to an hour. I typically do it when I'm getting ready in the morning, if, whether I'm in the shower or I'm, putting on makeup or just driving.
Do you listen to sales chatter every day?
Absolutely.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure it was sales
absolutely.
chatter.
So
I wasn't going to say that, but
it's on my list now, but that's my favorite part about being on podcasts is I get to add something new to my list, and I get to listen to new things and experience new things, which I think is super important. And to just keep continuing to grow and listen to other people, listen to other people's story, what worked for them, what didn't work for them. I tell people all the time, the only advice I give is don't listen to anybody else's advice, but listen to everything. And it's so important to just kind of listen to what everybody has to say. And then we choose what we listen, what we picked up from that. And then we make our own decisions. And I think it really helps me. Right. I'm part of a group called Success Champion Networking, and they're absolutely amazing. It's a huge networking group that I've been a part of for just over a year. And the founder of that networking group, he started what's called the Champion 90. And it's, 45 minutes of exercise every day, 45 minutes of podcast, writing 200 plus words, and just writing, getting all of the thoughts on paper, and, doing like sales calls or, cold calls for 45 minutes, stepping outside of my comfort zone, like getting on LinkedIn and introducing myself to people I would have never introduced myself to. And I find that by doing that every day, it's helped to kind of motivate and elevate me to the next level. And there are things that I do already, but now I feel like I have that accountability, right? So it's like, shit, if I don't show up, somebody's going to notice that I'm not going to show up, and now I get to restart my calendar. So it's definitely accountability.
Well, accountability is one of the biggest keys. I love what you said about listening to so many things and kind of pulling pieces, right? There's a lot of people that find a guru, if you will, and they follow that person to the T. And it might not be their demeanor, it might not be the person they are, but they follow it. And I mean, I was guilty when I first started my career. I literally lynched on to the top salesman, and I was literally like mini me to him. And it worked. I got business, but like feeling like a fraud was huge, right? And I remember sitting with Bob Proctor one night, the late great Bob Proctor, and we were sitting at his house for dinner. And he said, Dan, he said, here's the thing about developing a mindset that's going to get you anywhere you want to go. Because not everything I say is going to resonate with you. But he said, you take it, you mull it over. You say, will this work for me in my situation? Yes, it will. He goes, and something I say 10 minutes from now might work for you 3 years down the road. You might not be ready for it right now. And it's this level of awareness. And he goes, and think of it like a radio station. If you turn on Q107 in Ontario, it's rock and roll. Don't expect to hear country music. But if you turn on a country channel, you're going to hear country music. And when he said that, that's when my world expanded. And I found, 17 different mentors. And this one that says this, and this one that says this. And you kind of stack your own strategy and mental philosophy on these mentors. And as you grow, you actually find other mentors that take you to that next level, right?
Yes.
And I that's to me, that was the beautiful thing about reading, about podcasts, about audiobooks, about all of these ways to consume content passively. I'll sit here in the morning, I'll listen to music, and there'll be a line in one of the songs I've heard a million times that just catches me that morning, and I'm like,
resonates.
oh my gosh, why was I thinking like that? Like, you just catch yourself in this funk, right? You catch yourself in the middle of the chaos.
Yeah, it's so important. It's so important, and I agree with what you're saying, Jen, because I think the same way. And I've said it many times that you read different content from many different sources, and then you take that knowledge and that information, and then you create your own beliefs based on what you incorporated, what you brought in, and you're like, that data was pretty interesting. So was that. And then you just keep on reading and getting that knowledge base, that you need in order to make decisions or state something, and hopefully it's fact.
Jeff, you are a transition master today. Let me just tell you that. Ryan's usually the transition master, but you just transitioned into the lane of the day so well with the data and the structure and the knowledge and everything. I'm like, oh my God, he's transitioning. Welcome everybody to the lane of the day, sponsored by DAT, Freight Market Analysis. So we're talking dry van, we're talking Portland, Oregon, the Salt Lake City, Utah. Line haul rate per mile is $2.23 a mile. Fuel all in $2.89. So we're seeing a huge drop in that fuel all in. We were looking at like 80 something, 90 something cents the other day, and now we're down, down to 60 something. Contracted rate is $3.33, so we're seeing a huge gap in that difference. The year over year line haul spot rate is down $1 per mile. But there's been a recent rate jump as this is an outbound high capacity lane has tightened. The current rate is 31 cents higher than the October average. So from October till now, it's 31 cents higher. Still, I mean, you're talking 223, so you are talking the ability to make a little bit of money even as an owner operator in there, but it's starting to get tight out there, Jeff. Starting to get tight.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So thank you to that for that lane of the day. And Jeff, I hope you didn't lose your train of thought. I just had to transition in there, brother.
No,
that
it was
sweet.
What a segue. Just slip it right in there.
You didn't even know you did it. And you did it. It was awesome.
No,
it was awesome,
I know. Anytime that I say data and we're about 20, 25 minutes in, it's like, what's happening there. So.
You know what's going to happen. Yeah, exactly. So Jen, what's, if you can give everybody kind of a routine, if you will, if you feel your mindset dropping, do you have a coach? Do you have somebody that you call on? Do you have like an accountability partner besides the group? Do you kind of move towards a single person? Is it your kids? Is it your husband? How do you keep that momentum going?
All of it. So, I mean, for me, it's just like, I have to do it, right? So that's just kind of my mentality. But when I feel like I need someone, I do. I have someone for accountability. I have multiple mentors. So not just one, I have several. I have two in particular who, are just absolutely amazing when I need that reset. So, like, for myself personally, like, I'm in a mastermind, but I also host a mastermind. So not only do I have my own accountabilities, helping other people with their accountabilities, I mentor myself. So whether it's through my own company or whether it's volunteer work, I'm doing it in so many different places that allows me that if I'm going to say you should do this, I probably should be doing the same. And if I feel like I need a reset, I'll stop, I'll clear my calendar for the day. It very rarely happens. But for me personally, on Mondays, I actually set the calendar so it's my day that doesn't really have anything. And it allows me to set up my entire week so I can work like a horse all week long, get all my things done, get organized, and stay on top of my game, and then allow myself the weekend, right? Because I feel like workaholics, especially with ADHD, I can work straight through the weekend. I can work straight through the night. And so for me, I have to set really hard boundaries. And that's something that I talk about with people all the time. 5 o'clock comes, it's time for my kids. The weekend comes, it's time for my kids. I want to be present and I want to be in their lives. And I want them to see that, like, mom can work as hard as she does, but she can also be here. Because what's the point of doing all the things I'm doing if I can't spend it with my family?
True.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. And it's funny, before you said time for kids, I was going to say, well, what stops you at the end of the day and on weekends? And I don't know about you. You work from home most of the time. You're working from home. Yeah. So uh, it's so easy that, well, I'll just dip in the office for 10 minutes and like 3
Oh,
hours
it's so
later you
easy.
walk out. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is so easy. And,
Mhm.
I don't really talk about this, too much publicly until more recently. Some people ask me all the time, they're like, why do you set the boundaries? Why are these things so important? Not just, I'm obviously I have to be present for my family, for my kids, but my middle son also has Tourette's. And so he needs a lot of extra love and a lot of extra attention. And so he knows, like, he's almost like I tell everyone, he's like a can of soda. So he knows that mom's working. And when 5 o'clock comes, that kid explodes. So I have to be present and I have to give him that energy because he needs so much attention that, I feel like I wouldn't be doing justice if I didn't give them, that attention. But I also, while I'm working, they're so trained, which is really funny because my office is wide open, but they know that when mommy's working, like, not to bug me, but if they have something important or if they need something, like, I always allow them to interrupt me. So sometimes, like, if I'm not, like, recording in a room, they'll come and they'll jump on my, just jump on my Zoom calls. They'll say hi to people. And, I allow that reset because I think it's really important to just integrate, the things that I'm doing every day with my family.
Well, yeah. And I think especially in today's day and age, right? It's not as if, like, say you're on a coaching call and one of your kids jumped in and said, hey, 5 years ago, people might have been like, oh my gosh, but now
I
it's like
know.
my dogs will jump up on the window and bark at a car going by, and I'm like, it's live.
Same.
What do you want me to
It's
do? You know what I
life.
mean? And it's just what it is. And the dog will come up, and then the dog, one time Stanley's jumped up here and kind of looked around like, what are you doing up there? And it's
Yeah.
like, hey, welcome to my world. This is the way it is now, and especially in this environment. And not to mention, I would think also your children know, hey, the more we let mom do what she needs to do now, the
Yeah.
more she's going to be with us later. So it's not as if they're starving for that attention because you're in the office 17 hours a day.
Right.
They know there's that break point, right? So
They do.
it's right. So that training, or that conditioning, that probably a better word for it, that you've given them, has allowed them to know, okay, listen, yeah, like, we got an hour. I don't need to bug mom right now. I can wait till after. Damon has two really good questions for you. So he says, where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years? And what's the mindset behind the future you? Great
Ooh,
question, Damon.
Wow. Yeah, no,
That
I
is-
really like that question. So we didn't discuss it. So like I said, I have 4 companies. My consulting company is called Epic 47. And I might have previously talked about this, but I I have this goal to own 47 companies by 2047. And, not me running, and controlling all of them. I actually want to be able to start businesses and give other people opportunities to run companies. So, my end goal is actually to be an investor. I really want to invest in other people and their opportunities. So someone who really wants to start a business, but they don't know how to start a business, I want to help them and give them the resources to start a business. I want to be able to, give them the opportunities like that I didn't have when I was growing up to start a business. I always thought that, oh, if I want to start a business, I have to have all of this money. I'll be the first to tell you I started my first business with $500, and here I am. So you can start anything. You just have to have the mindset. You have to look for the resources. And for me, I really want to, start multiple businesses. I've said this on other podcasts and I talk about this a lot. My GM was my first employee for my babysitting company. And when she first started, she was my nanny. So she had no idea what I was doing. I said, hey, I have someone who's looking for a nanny. She didn't even know I was pregnant. I know someone who's looking for a nanny. Are you interested? She's like, absolutely. I'm like, I'll set up the Zoom call. I got her on the Zoom call and it was just me and her. And she's like, when's the other person coming on? I was like, surprise, I need a nanny. And when I met this girl, I knew she was meant to do big things. And she's like, no, I just want to be a nanny. I was like, well, I really need some office work. Do you want to help me with that? And she's like, no. But then I'd start giving her some office work. And I started adding some things to the list. And over the past 2 years, she's helped me hire over 500 people, which is absolutely insane. And she runs my cleaning company, and which I think is absolutely amazing. And next year, I'm actually giving her shares of that company. So, her title will change. She'll actually own part of the company. And I want to be able to offer opportunities to people.
Now, what's the magic number 47?
You empower her.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and then hopefully she does it.
What's the magic number 47? I'm curious.
So that's a great question. So it started off with, and I love this story because for me, I'm, like this super hippie. I have rocks in my pocket all the time. They're actually in my bra and it's always an inside joke, but I always have like rocks everywhere and I'm just like very spiritual. And when I named it Epic 47, I was coming up with all of these different names. And when I was younger, 4 and 7 were numbers that just always gravitated towards me. My birthday's in April. My favorite number 7. Ironically, I'm running the Boston Marathon, which is 417. So these numbers just like they resonate around me, right? So when I was telling one of my mentors, I was like, hey, it's my favorite number. That's why I did it. And he's like, time out. That sounds terrible. And I was like, what do you mean that sounds terrible? He's like, that's not even a good story. So I was like, all right, fine. He's like, you need to come up with a better story. He's like, starts telling me about like one of his companies and the number 46. And when he was in Afghanistan, it came up because of the kill cards, 46 people and blah, 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 and going on this story. And I was like, shit, my story is terrible. So he's like, you have to come up with a better reason why you wanted 47. And, it took me a long time to really think about it. It took me, several weeks. For years, I've always wanted to own lots of businesses. For years, I've always wanted to be a motivational speaker. I dig Mel Robbins. I love the way she talks. She's a great presenter. I follow her when it comes to like motivational speaking and just like the way she presents herself. So I think she's fantastic. Tony Robbins, I think he's a fantastic business owner. Not so much motivational speaker. I can't really get on board with that. But as far as a business owner, he's fantastic. So I always, like to say, if you were to smush both of them together, I want to be that person. I want to own all the businesses. I want to do all the speaking. I want to inspire lots of people and help change people's lives. And that's just kind of always been my goal and my mindset. And so one day I'm going for a walk and I usually either have like aha moments, like right after the shower at 11:30 at night, or while I'm going for a walk with the family. So like I'm walking down the street and then all of a sudden I just stop in front of my neighbor's yard. And I looked at my whusband. I was like, I know what I'm going to name why I'm going to name my company this company. And he's like, what? I was like, well, I did the math. I think I could own 47 businesses in the next 25 years. And he's like, of course you can. Because he thinks every time I come up with a new idea, he's like, somehow he supports me and thinks I'm crazy, but he still supports it. But I was like, well, I did the math. If I do, 1 to 2 businesses per year, I'm pretty sure that I could come up with it. And so it was just that mindset of, I want to help other people in business. I want to own lots of businesses. I want the number to have a significance. So for me, it's a goal, right? Like everything I do, if you haven't kind of got that for me, I run Spartan races. I sign up for races to complete things. The Boston Marathon, I'm setting a goal so I have something to achieve. So for me, if I set a goal, I'm going to achieve it. So I'm a big goal setter.
Awesome.
So big deadline individual
yes,
as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of times that you have a deadline to run the marathon, so you understand you got to start preparing on this date, and this is where you got to be at this date, and this is where you got to be, and about 75% of the way to the marathon, you got to be able to run it.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Jeff, do you have any other questions?
No. I mean, just mind
I
blowing
think,
and unbelievable.
yeah, super.
Unbelievable.
And that was great. And so what's the mindset behind the future you? I want to bring it back to that before we go, because I think a lot of people are inspired by your story. A lot of people are inspired by you, but we also know that motivation kind of wanes after a while. What are some of the things you're doing to prepare that mindset for the future you, and tips you can give the audience to prepare their mindset for the future them?
So I definitely think the goal setting for the future, I think that helps me to kind of get to the next level. And it's always learning to like grow and evolve, and knowing that when you get to the next step, it's not the end all be all. So a lot of people like to set goals to say, oh, I achieved it, I never have to do it again. So for me, it's kind of like just like a marker, right? It's like running a long distance race. You're passing the baton and you get to a point and you got to keep going. So for me, it's when I get to that point, what did I learn and where can I pivot and go to the next point? So it's just this constant growth and change, and evolving, which I think is super important, and giving that mindset to other people. So when I get to a certain spot, what did I learn? What could I have done better? And how can I be better? So it's just constantly moving for me.
Constant evolution, skill up all the time.
Always.
There's no finish
Very
line.
cool.
There's no finish
No.
line.
No, you know what? I remember when I started Teamwork Freight Systems. I started a brokerage company, and we had a goal to get to $35 million. And I remember, because I would vividly, like, I'd have dreams about walking up the front steps, 5 steps up front, and then turning around, and there was a black vehicle that pulled in. And my business partner got out and said, we did it. And it was always interesting how he drove a gold vehicle, but it was a black vehicle that showed up. And about a month before we hit the mark, he bought a black Cadillac Escalade. And like, so I'm seeing this vision come together, right? I'm seeing, we bought the building that I saw. Like, originally it wasn't even that, like, it was a different building that I saw. So I was like, oh my God, there's the stairs, there's the black vehicle. And he pulls up, and I just kind of stopped, and the goosebumps just like insane. And I turned around, and he goes, Dan, you'll never believe it. I said, we hit 35 million. He goes, how'd you know? I said, I've seen this picture for months, almost a year. But you know what? It was like, we did it. I didn't put another goal. I didn't, that was it. And within 9 months, 2009 hit. And in 6 months, we went to a $300,000 company. And it was interesting because I learned the power of, once you're not even achieved, but once you're close, move the goalpost.
Yes.
And I mean, it was a very expensive lesson, but it was a lesson. And I'm glad I went through it, because my goalposts are ever changing. And for all of you watching and listening, that is one thing that's key. You have a goal now, like Daman said. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years? As you approach the 10-year, if you're making it, you set the next one right away, because it's amazing what happens with drive, momentum, what everyone calls luck, all these things. If you don't have that vision of moving forward, everything just stops. Like, I found everything stopped. Like, all of a sudden, customers stopped calling. Customers wanted discounts. Like, it was like, and again, in the eye of the storm, I didn't see it. I was just like, what is going on here? Like, how is this happening? And then it's afterwards, I sit back and I went, holy crap. I didn't just go stagnant. I went like dead. I was like domiciled. I was like, it was insane how fast it just dropped, because there was no vision. There was no propelling to the future. It was, here we are, this is what it was. And in 2005 to 2007, we went from, or 2008, so in 3 years, we went from 0 to 35 million. That's a huge climb. And we did it with consistent customers that treated us right, that paid their bills. Like, we never had issues like that. And it's like a wall. And I realized it was because there was no future. It was like, hey, well, where do I see myself? Like Damon says, in 5 years, 10 years. It was like, in 3 years, I want to do this. And we did it. And instead of saying, okay, now I want to be at 50 million in 5 or 65, like it just stopped. So big lesson when it comes to goal setting, because, it's funny. I have a multiple sayings on my computer here, Jen. And one of them is, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Right. And it's right below, choice by choice, I get closer to or further from my goals.
Right. Like you said, right? So further or closer away.
That too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting. Well, Jen, thank you so much for being here. Before we let you go, share with people how they can get a hold of you.
Absolutely. So you can find me on LinkedIn under Jennifer Potter, Instagram, Jen_live your best life. Ironically, I'm also on Facebook and all over the place. So you can, Google me, find me, send me a DM, set up a virtual coffee. I love meeting and talking to other people. And I just want to piggyback what you said real quick on that, that mindset and that manifestation. If you continuously say that this is going to happen, this is where I'm going to be, this is what I see, you have to keep manifesting it. You have to keep creating it. And just like you said, write your goals down every day. I say it every morning, put 3 things down that I'm going to achieve today. What are things that I'm going to do to, have the best day and get to that next moment. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Jeff, do you got any closing remarks?
No. I just agree with Jen completely. That's what you need to do, that there is no finish line, folks. And if you do have a finish line, then you're not going to succeed. You always got to keep on reinventing the wheel, as they say, and make the goals even bigger and better than what they were in the past.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I could vouch for Jeff on that. Ever since I've been going through my battle, Jeff's been by my side saying, Dan, come on, man, go for it, buddy, go for it. You got this. You're coming out stronger on the other side. So you've been a real cheerleader for me, brother, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anytime,
so
my friend.
Listen, we're going to replay this at 12 and 3. So make sure you join. Make sure you subscribe. If you know anyone that you think would benefit from this episode, please send it to them and register, subscribe, and listen to Sales Chatter every day, because y'all, we're here to help 10,000 sales reps generate $1 million GP. Take care. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Centurion Trucking, our motto is people before profit. Today's market requires more transparency, consistency, and focus on what our clients need to win. Centurion Trucking and American Logistics are poised to help their clients achieve and surpass their targets. If you're looking for a team that honors your needs, dreams, and aspirations, then get a hold of Daman at American Logistics or Centurion Trucking and start designing your career today.